Hello, guys. I hope you're doing well, and please ignore the mess behind me. If you are hearing me, please write something so that I know that you are hearing me well. I'm checking your comments. Please, somebody write something so that I make sure that you guys are um, hearing me well. Okay, unfortunately, I'm not able to see your comments. I will check again on not able. Okay. Okay, you hear me, guys. Cool. Uh, I waited a couple of hours before going online to tell you what's going on now in Syria. Obviously, in the last couple of days, the Israeli occupation forces were conducting several airstrikes and also artillery attacks and missile attacks from the occupied Golan Heights on the Syrian territories, claiming that the Israeli army is targeting Iranian bases in Syria. If we try to analyze the situation in Syria, we have to see the timeline of the events, starting from the so-called the alleged chemical attack in Douma, and how the American, the French, and the British conducted strikes on Syria. And then Israel conducted several airstrikes as well and strikes on Syria. And now we can see Donald Trump says that he withdrew from the Iranian nuclear deal. And after a couple of hours of his withdrawal, Israel is attacking Syria yesterday and today. And this is coming all a series of events in Syria in order to push Iran and Syria and Hezbollah into retaliation and into taking an action against the offensives of Israel in Syria. I think what happened tonight will change the equations in the Middle East because it wasn't only, let's say, some limited strikes or limited retaliation by the Syrian side. The Syrian army launched more than 50 missiles on Israeli targets in the Golan Heights, and the Israelis also launched a lot of attacks in Syria. I'm watching the videos. The Syrian army was able to intercept many of these missiles. And till the moment, there are many problems and many strikes happening in the skies of Damascus and also in Homs. What I'm trying to say here is since 7 years, at least I was saying that this is a proxy war in Syria by Islamist proxies being funded and supported by the United States and also Israel. And at that time, I was considered a conspiracy theory. Now, when the situation is developing in a way that the Syrian army and the allies will be able to completely eradicate the Islamist terrorist groups in Syria, and the turn will come when Syria will try to liberate southern Syria, and namely Daraa. I mentioned this several times in my interviews and also on Syrian analysis, because in Daraa, it's the proxies of Israel fighting against the Syrian army. So, and Israel pays daily salaries, monthly salaries for these militants. This is by the confession of Israel. Israel heals and treats Al-Qaeda fighters in its hospitals, and Israel attacks the Syrian army positions, enabling the terrorists to occupy certain strategic hills. On the borders with Israel, we have ISIS and Al Qaeda, and Israel doesn't shoot on these terrorists at all. And in fact, the former defense minister Moshe Yaalon said that Israel prefers ISIS over Assad because Assad and his allies, and namely Iran, will turn Syria into a stronghold for resistance against Israel in order to recapture and liberate the occupied Golan Heights and also the Sharha farms in Lebanon. So now what happened is, after liberating eastern Ghouta, Israel intervened directly because of the plans to move forward into south of Syria, and especially after eastern Ghouta and after liberating western Kalamun and the recent reconciliation deals in Homs and Hama. When we say the Syrian army will move forward to Daraa, that means also the allies of Syria, namely Hezbollah, the Al-Quds Brigade, which is Palestinian fighters, and also the Iranian Revolutionary Guard advisors also. So Israel is panicking that the Syrian army and the allies will not only liberate Daraa, but also will have a stronghold there in order to launch future operations in order to liberate the occupied Golan Heights. When I say the occupied Golan Heights, we have to know that Golan Heights belong to Syria, and Israel occupied it in the 1967 war. And according to the UN resolutions, according to international law, and according to the entire international community, the Golan Heights are occupied territories that Israel annexed it, and I believe in 1982 it was Israel officially annexed Golan Heights and applied all the laws and regulations of Israel over these territories. So if we check the international law, Syria has the legal right to use force to liberate this particular area. However, what's happening now is the main reason is Israel, as I mentioned, trying to push Iran and Syria and Hezbollah into retaliation. And this attack came only hours after Trump's withdrawal from the Iran nuclear deal. And this will open the door for a renegotiation. This is what the Americans are hoping for, and the Israelis renegotiation of the Iranian deal. I'm sure 100% that the Israelis cannot attack Iran in any way possible. They would be destroyed if they attack Iran. So they practiced pressure on Donald Trump to withdraw from this deal. Now they're attacking Syria and also Iranian positions in Syria in order to push Iranians into retaliation. And when the Iranians will retaliate, the Israelis will go in front of the international community, playing the role of the victim as usual, and saying that Iran is attacking Israel from the Syrian territories, and that the Iranian expansion and the Iranian influence in the region is growing, and that Iran is the biggest threat of the security in the region, and all these cliches. And they will have the Saudis who will support this move by Israel as well. So the goal is now to renegotiate the Iranian deal and include new articles, including the Iranian ballistic missiles, and including the influence of Iran in the region, including the Yemeni file, the Syrian file, the Lebanese file, and etc. The absolute goal of Israel is to kick out Iran from Syria and let only the Russian side handle the issue because they can negotiate with the Russians and they have friendly relationship with the Russians. However, the decision is not solely in the hands of the Russians. And any objective observer on the ground knows that it is the decision of the Syrian government. The future of the presence of whether Iranian forces or the Russian forces or Hezbollah forces is in the hand of the Syrian government, and the Syrian government knows that in the future there could be brutal battles, not only in against the Israeli proxies in South Daraa, where the Russians prefer a political settlement where these groups would remain there and have their checkpoints and do some sort of reconciliation and join the police. On the other hand, the Syrian and the Iranian side, they prefer defeating these groups and force them into surrender and impose the conditions on them, because in the future the Syrian side has to think about recapturing the Golan Heights. In addition to that, the Syrians also have to deal with the issue of the Eastern Euphrates, where the Americans and now the French are occupying Syrian territories, and they are stealing the Syrian gas and oil fields there. So this complex situation in Syria cannot be dealt only by the Russian help. Syria needs all its allies, including Russia, Hezbollah, and Iran, and the wider support, also economic support coming from other states. So at the moment, I believe the situation is a little bit less tense now, as I am now trying to check with my sources. However, much of the attacks that been carried out against Syria been intercepted, and a lot of missiles been destroyed in the skies of Syria. I'm not in a position now to mention which areas that the missiles succeeded to hit. The Israeli missiles. I let this to the Syrian army to declare tomorrow or after tomorrow. I also am not in a position to declare from which places the Syrian army fired the missiles against Israeli positions. These are war secrets that we need to be careful and not to declare it in public. Even if we know some information, sometimes we have to be careful not to help the enemy get free information from what's happening in Syria. However, I assure you that the majority of the missiles were intercepted. However, some of the missiles succeeded to reach their destination and caused damages and maybe loss of lives. At the moment, everything is still chaotic, so we need to wait a little bit until tomorrow, until things get clear. So in summary, I don't want to stay very long. It's already 3:30 a.m. and maybe it's later in your own countries. Today's attack by Israel on Syria has met with a strong reaction and retaliation by the Syrian army. And it was for the first time since Henry Kissinger's days, when he negotiated for a ceasefire between Syria and Israel. Syria retaliated and attacked Israel for the first time through more than 50 missiles into the occupied Golan Heights. That means Syria targeted territories that are under international law. It's legitimate to attack these places because it's an act of self-defense, and it's an act of resistance against an occupying power occupying your own territories. So it was in the last time was in 1974 when the U.S. Secretary of State Kissinger He spent a lot of time in the Middle East between Jerusalem and Damascus to reach the disengagement agreement between Syria and Israel. Now, after 44 years exactly, and so it's in May 2018, this disengagement agreement obviously collapsed, and for the first time, there was it wasn't an all-out attack, but it was a wide range of attack, and more than 50 missiles is a big number of missiles being hit against Israel, and at the same time, the Israelis also attacked Syria by many missiles and rockets. So that was all for now. I will also check the information for tomorrow, and if I find that there is a need to update for that, I will do another video tomorrow live streaming, and I will keep you updated. For now, we wish that things won't develop in a way that goes out of the control in the region, and we hope that Syrians can restore their occupied territories, not only from the terrorists, but also from the Israeli occupation forces. And we hope that the Syrians will enjoy a lasting peace after liberating their territories. So that was all for now. I'm Kiburk Almasian of Syriana Analysis, and see you next time.